Indistractable: How to Control Your Attention and Choose Your Life, by Eyal. Introduction. There's an old activity book, the kind designed to bring fathers and daughters closer together. Inside are simple games, little projects. And one afternoon, a man named Nir was sitting with his daughter, his only child, working through this book. They were having a wonderful time. One of the prompts was a question they both had to answer: if you could have any superpower, what would it be? The man's mind started turning. Flight? Super strength? He was ready with his answer. But before he could say a word, his daughter looked up at him with wide, curious eyes and asked, "Daddy, what would your superpower be?" And in that perfect, magical moment, he didn't answer. Because his phone buzzed. He grunted, "Just a second. I just need to respond to this one thing." He picked up his phone, his eyes glued to the screen, his fingers tapping away at something that felt incredibly important in that moment, but was probably just another email, another notification, another trivial demand on his attention. He was physically in the room, but his mind was a million miles away. When he finally finished, he looked up. And she was gone. He had just let a perfect moment with the most important person in his life slip away, stolen by a meaningless distraction on his phone. And the worst part? It wasn't the first time. It was just the time he couldn't ignore anymore. That man was Eyal. And this painful moment sent him on a 5-year quest to understand a question that haunts all of us today. Why do we do things that go against our own best interests? Why do we let our attention, our time, and our lives be controlled by others? And most importantly, how do we take it back? Nir is a fascinating person to answer this question, because, in a way, he helped create the problem. His first book, a Wall Street Journal bestseller called Hooked: How to Build Habit-Forming Products, became a must-read inside companies like Facebook, Google, and Slack. It was a cookbook, a recipe for how to make technology so captivating you can't put it down. And now, with his book Indistractable, he's giving us the antidote. He's showing us the Achilles heel of the tech giants and revealing the hidden psychology that drives us to distraction. What I'm about to share with you isn't just another list of productivity tips. This is a deep dive into the root cause of our distraction. By the time we're done here, you will understand that the battle for your attention isn't about your phone, your email, or your social media notifications. It's about something much deeper. And you will walk away with a simple, powerful 4-step framework that will give you the ability to become what Nir calls indistractable. It's a skill he believes is the most important skill of the 21st century. It is, perhaps, the only superpower that truly matters. Book summary. So, let's begin with a question. When you get distracted, what do you blame? For most of us, the answer is obvious. It's the phone. It's the constant pings and dings. It's the endless scroll of social media. It's email. It's the 24/7 news cycle. We're living in the most distracting time in human history, and these tools are the villains. Right? Well, after that painful moment with his daughter, Eyal thought so too. He decided to go on a digital detox. He got an old-school flip phone so he couldn't be tempted by apps. But he quickly found he couldn't get around without GPS. He missed his audiobooks. He missed all the genuinely useful things his smartphone did. So he tried another approach. To stop wasting time reading news online, he subscribed to a physical newspaper. A few weeks later, he had a stack of unread papers piled up next to him, as he sat there watching the news on TV. To stay focused while writing, he bought an old word processor with no internet connection. But whenever he sat down to write, he'd find his eyes wandering to his bookshelf, and soon he'd be flipping through books that had nothing to do with his work. No matter what he did, he kept getting distracted, even when the technology he blamed was gone. He had just replaced one distraction with another. And that's when he stumbled upon the single most important truth in this entire book. Distraction is not about the distraction itself. The problem is deeper than tech. Distraction starts from within. Every time we get distracted, we are escaping an uncomfortable feeling. Let that sink in for a moment. All human behavior is driven by a desire to escape discomfort. Even when we think we're seeking pleasure, we're actually seeking freedom from the pain of wanting. When you feel lonely, you check Facebook. When you feel uncertain, you Google. When you feel bored, you watch YouTube or scroll through Instagram. These technologies aren't the root cause of your distraction. They are the proximate cause. They are the modern, easy, socially acceptable pacifiers we use to soothe our internal discomfort. To truly understand this, let me tell you the story of a woman named Zoe Chance. She's a professor at Yale who teaches influence and persuasion. But for a time, she was the one being manipulated. She confessed that she had purchased a device that slowly began to ruin her life. It wasn't a drug. It wasn't some dangerous new technology. It was a pedometer. Specifically, a Strive Smart Pedometer, a device designed by former video game makers to get people to be more physically active. It gave her points for walking, challenges to complete, and virtual worlds to build. It was brilliantly designed to be motivating. And for Zoe, it worked a little too well. She became obsessed. She would pace around her house in circles for hours, just to rack up points, ignoring her husband when he tried to talk to her. One night, at midnight, as she was brushing her teeth, her Strive offered her triple points to climb just 20 stairs. She did it. Then it offered her another challenge, and another. For the next 2 hours, she walked up and down her basement stairs, possessed, until she had climbed over 2,000 stairs, more than it takes to climb the Empire State Building. On the surface, it's a crazy story about a pedometer gone wrong. But when Near dug deeper, he found the real story. Zoe later admitted that her addiction to the Strive coincided with one of the most stressful periods of her life. She was on the grueling academic job market, facing tremendous uncertainty. She was losing hair, losing sleep. On top of that, her marriage was falling apart. She felt completely out of control. But the Strive was something she could control. It gave her a sense of progress, of achievement, of competence. It was, in her own words, an escape from reality. That's the secret. Distraction is always an unhealthy escape from reality. The pedometer wasn't the problem. Her pain was the problem. And unless we learn to deal with the root cause, our pain, we will always find a way to distract ourselves. So why are we in so much pain? Why this constant, nagging discomfort? It's not a personal failing. It's by design. Evolution hardwired our brains for a near constant state of discontentment. As one psychological review put it, if satisfaction and pleasure were permanent, there might be little incentive to continue seeking further benefits or advances. Our ancestors survived because they were perpetually perturbed. A satisfied caveman was a dead caveman. And we've inherited that same brain. 4 psychological factors ensure we're never content for long. First, boredom. We hate being alone with our own minds so much that in one study, people chose to give themselves painful electric shocks rather than sit in a room and just think. Second, negativity bias. Our brains are like Velcro for bad experiences and Teflon for good ones. Bad is always stronger than good. Third, rumination. our tendency to chew over bad experiences again and again. And finally, the cruelest trick of all, hedonic adaptation. This is our tendency to quickly return to a baseline level of happiness, no matter what happens to us. Win the lottery? After a while, you're back to where you started. This might sound depressing, but it's actually liberating. Feeling bad isn't a sign that you're broken, it's a sign that your brain is working exactly as it was designed to. Our discomfort is a kind of fuel. It's what drives us to improve, to create, to change the world. The key is to learn how to harness it. If distraction costs us time, then time management is pain management. If we want to master distraction, we must learn to deal with discomfort. This brings us to the Indistractable model. It's a simple map for controlling your attention and choosing your life. Imagine a line. On the far right are actions that pull you toward what you want in life. These are called traction. The word comes from the Latin for to draw or pull. On the far left are actions that pull you away from what you want. This is distraction. The opposite of traction. The crucial insight is that you can't know the difference between traction and distraction unless you have a plan. You can't call something a distraction unless you know what it's distracting you from. All of our actions, whether traction or distraction, are prompted by triggers. These triggers can be external, the pings, dings, and rings in our environment. Or they can be internal, those uncomfortable feelings that cue us from within. So, the path to becoming indistractable involves 4 key strategies. The first, and most important, is to master internal triggers. This is where the real battle is won. It's not about fighting your urges. If you try to tell yourself, "Don't think of a white bear," what's the only thing you can think of? A white bear. Suppressing an urge just makes it stronger. Instead, Near offers a 4-step method for dealing with these uncomfortable sensations. Step 1. Look for the discomfort that precedes the distraction. When you reach for your phone, what are you feeling? Is it anxiety? Boredom? Loneliness? Get specific. Step 2. Write it down. Keep a simple log. Note the time, what you were doing, and how you felt when the urge hit. This act of observing makes you more aware and gives you a moment of separation. Step 3. Explore the sensation with curiosity, not contempt. Don't judge yourself. Just notice it. Where is it in your body? What does it feel like? Near suggests a technique called leaves on a stream. Imagine you're sitting by a stream, and you place each thought, each feeling, onto a leaf and just watch it float by. You are not your thoughts. You are the observer of your thoughts. Step 4. Be extra cautious during liminal moments. These are the transitions in your day: waiting in line, waiting for a traffic light, walking between meetings. This is when we are most vulnerable to mindless distraction. To handle this, use the 10-minute rule. If you have an urge to check your phone or eat that cookie, tell yourself you can, but you have to wait just 10 minutes. This technique is called surfing the urge. You ride the wave of the feeling, and often, by the time the 10 minutes are up, the urge has passed. This first strategy is the bedrock. But there's more we can do. The second strategy is to make time for traction. This is where you decide, in advance, what you want to do with your time. You turn your values into time. Most people organize their lives with to-do lists. But Near argues that to-do lists are deeply flawed. They don't have any constraints. You just end up with a long list of things you feel guilty about not doing, and you spend your day doing the easy, urgent tasks instead of the important, difficult ones. The solution is a technique called time boxing. This means deciding what you're going to do and when you're going to do it, and putting it on your calendar. The goal is to eliminate all the white space in your schedule. You create a template for your ideal week. And here's the key. It doesn't matter what you plan to do, as long as you do what you planned. If you schedule an hour to scroll through social media, that's traction. It's what you intended to do. The time you plan to waste is not wasted time. But if you're checking work email when you plan to be with your family, that's a distraction, even though it feels productive. A time-boxed calendar is the only way to know if you're distracted. If you're not doing what you said you would do, you're off track. To make this practical, Near breaks our lives into 3 domains: you, relationships, and work. You have to schedule time for you first. This is your sleep, your exercise, your hobbies. If you're not taking care of yourself, everything else falls apart. An important lesson here is to focus on the inputs, not the outcomes. Near tells a story about his own struggle with insomnia. He would lie in bed getting more and more stressed about not sleeping. He finally realized his job wasn't to force himself to sleep. That was an outcome he couldn't control. His job was to provide the input, to be in bed, in a dark, quiet room, at his scheduled bedtime. Once he focused on the input, the outcome took care of itself, and he started sleeping again. Next, you schedule time for your relationships. Don't let the most important people in your life become residual beneficiaries, the people who get whatever scraps of time are left over at the end of the day. Near schedules weekly time with his daughter using a fun jar full of activities they can do together. He and his wife schedule regular date nights and even put domestic chores on the calendar to ensure an equitable split. He has a bi-weekly gathering with friends called a kibbutz that's a permanent fixture on his calendar. These things don't just happen, they are planned. Finally, you schedule your work. This is where you plan your focused work, your meetings, and your time for email. The crucial step here is to sync your schedule with stakeholders, especially your boss. Sit down with your manager for just 15 minutes each week and show them your time-boxed calendar. Say, "This is how I plan to spend my time to align with our priorities. Does this look right to you?" This simple act creates transparency and protects your time for focused work. So now you've mastered your internal triggers and you've made a plan for traction. But what about all those pings and dings? This brings us to the third strategy: hack back external triggers. External triggers are all the cues in our environment that tell us what to do next. And our modern world is overflowing with them. But they aren't inherently evil. An alarm clock is an external trigger that helps you get up on time. The key is to ask one critical question for every single trigger. Is this trigger serving me, or am I serving it? If it helps you do what you plan to do, it's traction. If it pulls you away, it's a distraction. And for the ones that don't serve you, it's time to hack back. Near offers a whole toolbox of practical solutions. For work interruptions, especially in an open office, he suggests a simple, physical sign you place on your computer monitor that says, "I need to focus right now, but please come back soon." It's a clear, polite signal that you are indistractable. For email, he has a simple formula: $1 equals n/times ts. The total time you spend on email is the number of emails you get, multiplied by the time you spend on each one. So, you attack both variables. To reduce the number of emails, send fewer emails. Use a delayed delivery feature so you're not playing email ping pong. To reduce the time per email, process it in batches. Only touch each email twice. The first time, you quickly tag it with when it needs a response, today or this week. Then you get out of your inbox. The second time you touch it is during your scheduled time box for answering emails, when you reply. For your smartphone, he recommends a 4-step overhaul that takes less than an hour. 1. Remove. Delete any apps you don't use and any that are causing problems, like news or social media apps. You can still access them on your computer. 2. Replace, find new tools for old jobs. For example, start wearing a watch again so you don't have to check your phone for the time. 3. Rearrange, clean up your home screen. Only keep your essential tools there, apps for defined tasks like getting a ride or finding a location, and your aspirations, like a meditation or exercise app. Move all the slot machine apps that trigger mindless checking to a folder on another screen. 4. Reclaim, this is the most important step. Go into your settings and turn off almost all your notifications. Be ruthless. Nearly allows audible notifications for phone calls and text messages. You decide which triggers serve you, not the app makers. You can apply similar hacks to your desktop by cleaning off all the clutter and disabling notifications, and to your social media feeds by using free browser extensions like Newsfeed Eradicator, which replaces your distracting Facebook feed with an inspirational quote. You've dealt with your internal discomfort. You've planned your day. You've hacked back the external world. You're almost there. But there's one last line of defense. The fourth strategy is to prevent distraction with pacts. A pact is a pre-commitment. It's a decision you make in the clear light of day that binds your future self, who might be tempted to act impulsively in a moment of weakness. The most famous example is the story of Ulysses from the Odyssey. He wanted to hear the beautiful, deadly song of the sirens, but he knew it would drive him to crash his ship on the rocks. So, he made a pre-commitment. He had his men tie him to the mast and plug their own ears with beeswax, with strict orders not to untie him, no matter how much he begged. His pre-commitment saved him. We can use these Ulysses pacts to keep ourselves on track. Near outlines 3 types. First is an effort pact. This involves making an unwanted behavior more difficult to do. You can use apps like Self-Control or Freedom to block distracting websites for a set period of time. Near loves an app called Forest, where you plant a virtual tree that grows over a period of focused time. If you leave the app to get distracted, your little tree dies. Just that little bit of extra effort is often enough to keep you on track. Second is a price pact. This is where you put money on the line. We are all powerfully motivated to avoid losses. Psychologists call it loss aversion. Near uses a technique he calls burn or burn. He tapes a $100 bill to his calendar next to a scheduled workout. If he does the workout, he keeps the money. If he skips it for no good reason, he has to literally burn the $100 bill. He says he's never had to burn the money. To finish writing this very book, he made a price pact with a friend for $10,000. If he didn't finish the manuscript by a certain date, he would have to pay up. It worked. The third and most powerful type of pact is an identity pact. This is a pre-commitment to a new self-image. The way we see ourselves has a massive impact on our behavior. In one incredible study, researchers found they could dramatically increase voter turnout just by changing the wording on a survey. Asking people about the importance of being a voter a noun, an identity was far more effective than asking about the importance of to vote a verb, an action. Similarly, when trying to break a bad habit, saying I don't eat junk food is much more powerful than saying I can't eat junk food. I can't implies deprivation. I don't is a statement about who you are. This is the secret behind the book's title. The ultimate identity pact is to start calling yourself indistractable. When you do this, you start to see yourself differently. You make choices based on this new identity. Why do you plan your time so meticulously? Because you're indistractable. Why do you turn off your notifications? Because you're indistractable. Why do you put a sign on your monitor? Because that's what an indistractable person does. It becomes who you are. These 4 steps, mastering internal triggers, making time for traction, hacking back external triggers, and preventing distraction with pacts, are the complete system. They build on each other, creating a fortress that protects your time and your attention. And this isn't just for you. This framework applies to every area of our lives. In the workplace, chronic distraction is often a symptom of a dysfunctional culture, one that lacks what's called psychological safety, a belief that you can speak up with ideas, concerns, or mistakes without being punished. Companies that give their employees a voice and a sense of control are the ones that become indistractable. For our children, it's not the technology that's the problem. It's often that their psychological needs for autonomy, competence, and relatedness are not being met in their offline lives. So they go looking for those things online. Our job as parents isn't to ban the tech, but to help our children understand their own internal triggers and work with them to make time for traction, both online and off. And in our most intimate relationships, becoming indistractable is about making a conscious choice to be fully present with the people we love, to put down our devices and reclaim the sacred spaces where true connection happens. In the end, being indistractable isn't about being perfect. Nearby is very clear about this. He still struggles. He still gets distracted sometimes. To strive to be indistractable means to struggle, to fight vigorously. The difference is that now, you know what to do about it. You have the tools. You have the map. You have the power to control your attention. And in doing so, you have the power to choose your life. Commentary. As we come to the end of our journey through Indistractable, I find myself reflecting on one central idea that feels incredibly profound. The opposite of distraction is not focus. The opposite of distraction is traction. This is more than just a clever play on words. It fundamentally changes how we think about productivity, success, and even happiness. For so long, we've been taught that the goal is to be more focused, to do more things, to check more boxes off a list. We've been chasing a false idol of busyness. But Eyal suggests a different path. The goal isn't to do more. The goal is to do what you say you will do. It redefines productivity as a form of personal integrity. It's about being as honest with yourself as you are with others. It's about aligning your actions with your values, every single day. When you look at it that way, becoming indistractable is not just a life hack, it's an act of character. For someone your age, standing at the threshold of so many possibilities, this idea is a compass. The world will constantly try to pull you in 1,000 different directions. Your friends, your family, your teachers, and 1,000 advertisers and app developers will all have a plan for your time. The question is, what is your plan? Learning to manage your attention now is like learning to invest when you're young. The dividends will compound for the rest of your life. This isn't just about getting better grades or finishing your homework without pulling your hair out. It's about creating the space in your life to explore, to create, to be curious, to build deep relationships, and to do the kind of focused, meaningful work that builds a life you're proud of. The ideas in this book can feel like a lot to take in all at once. So, I want to leave you with 3 simple actions you can take, starting today, to begin your own journey toward becoming indistractable. First, just for today, become an observer. The next time you feel the urge to mindlessly check your phone, don't fight it. Don't judge it. Just for a second, pause and ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? Is it boredom? Anxiety? Fatigue? Just notice the internal trigger. That's it. That's the first step to mastering it. Second, time box just 1 hour. Look at your day and find one 60-minute block of time. Decide what you want to do with it, something important to you. Maybe it's studying for a test without interruption. Maybe it's practicing your guitar. Maybe it's just going for a walk without your phone. Put it on your calendar, and for that 1 hour, honor that commitment to yourself. See what it feels like to have traction. And third, make an identity pact. The next time someone asks you what you're working on, or what's new in your life, tell them, "I'm learning how to be indistractable." Say the words out loud. Share one thing you've learned. The act of teaching is a powerful way to solidify your own commitment. You are becoming the kind of person who controls their attention and chooses their life. That was a summary of Indistractable, by Eyal. We've touched on the most important ideas today, but I'll be honest with you, a summary can only ever be a map. The real treasure is found when you walk the path yourself. The true value of a book like this lies in the quiet moments of reading, when a particular story connects with your own experience, or a simple phrase sparks a new way of thinking. This summary is your guide to decide if this journey is worth your time. If anything we've talked about has struck a chord with you, I encourage you to grab a copy. Reading it isn't just about learning new information, it's an experience that can genuinely change how you live your day-to-day life. The link to the book is in the description below. Also, if you found this journey valuable, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel. It's a small click, but it means the world to us and ensures you won't miss our next exploration into another life-changing book. Let's keep learning and growing together.